Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenmara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight I would like to offer the elemental energy reading for Earth for the month of June 2024. These messages are technically timeless because the divine speaks in language we don't fully understand always. So whenever you're hearing this, it's when you're supposed to be hearing it. Also, I read intuitively, so the messages that come through may or may not be the exact messages on the cards and or I-Ching that I use. So, with that being said, we'll start with the I-Ching and we'll go through that hexagram, which I cast before the stream or for the video, and then we'll go into the tarot and oracle cards, because I do both. So for our elemental, got too many pieces of paper here, hexagram for June, we have Earth, and you have, for Earth, for June, you have the very first hexagram, which is the creative principle. This one, interestingly enough, has a lot of commentary and a fairly big text with it. So we'll get started. The creative principle, sublime success, persistence in a righteous course brings reward. So there's a lot of side words with this one that do not follow through with the rest of them. So we're going with just the basics on this one. But the creative principle, sublime success, persistence in a righteous course brings reward. The creative principle, which is the concept of taking random bits and pieces and making art, making something better or bigger out of it. Earth, you have the foundational elements within you. So when you are creating, you're kind of using yourself as the paintbrush. You are the sculptor and the clay at the same time. Interesting dichotomy there, but that's you. And when it says sublime success, you carry the ability to perform whatever need it is that you have. You have those gifts, skills, talents. The reason you're drawn to whatever it is you're working towards, because there's an aspect of yourself, there's an aspect of your subconscious that already knows how to do it. It's just bringing that subconscious into the physical. Persistence in a righteous course brings reward. Well, hard work, honest work is how you're going to get rewarded here. There are no shortcuts. They're being loud about that. So there are no shortcuts. So whatever you need to do, there's a pattern, there's a path, there are steps. Now you can be artistic and creative with your steps too, but it has to be honest and it has to prove itself. It's not, well, if I cut this corner, no, you cut a corner, there's a high likelihood you're doing something that's not righteous persistence. So we'll get started here with our foundational line. The concealed dragon refrains from action. What does this signify? Well, the concealed dragon is the hidden knowledge, the hidden wisdom. In more Hindu concepts, I'm not going to say I'm a professional here, but in a lot of the Hindu concepts of the chakras, the dragon, the concealed dragon, is the kundalini that resides in the lower chakras that has to be woken up to drive the energy up to the crown. And so concealing in this aspect is, it's that hidden, the subconscious stuff. You know where you're headed. You know kind of where your interests are. How do you get there? That may not be revealed to you in this moment, but what it's saying is, what does this mean? What does it mean to you to know that there's things that you don't know, or things that you may not understand in this moment? Are you willing to strive to improve? Are you willing to look at things from a different perspective, maybe ask someone their advice? When they ask questions in the I-Ching, it's generally kind of in your face answers, which means, what does the concealing dragon refrain from action? What is it that you're hiding that you're not willing to do? So your second line, and this is a very basic hexagram, like I said, it's the first in the series, is the dragon is perceived in an open space. It is advantageous to visit a great man. So when you understand the concept of the energy field, of the kundalini, of the energy within the soul. And a lot of the times it's moving in a circular pattern. That's how a lot of people will talk about it. The chakras are spiraling vortexes. It is advantageous to visit a great man. When the dragon is perceived in the open space, it's kind of mystical. Like it's just kind of there floating around. And when you visit a great man, a teacher, a mentor, a manager at work, or however a great man appears to you, this is asking you to go find someone to get a little guidance from. Doesn't mean that they're gonna hold your hand through this. And the best mentors and teachers are going to hear your question and then give you a drop of advice and a list of questions, because you already know the answers in most cases. Not always, but in most cases. And that's what it is. The dragon, the thing you don't know, because it's mystical and floating up there in space, but it's very advantageous of you for this next month to find a mentor, find a great man. Doesn't have to be male, but that's find someone who is above or has already achieved something that you're wanting, and seek counsel from them. Your third place line is: the superior man busies himself the whole day through, and evening finds him thoroughly alert. Trouble threatens, but he is not at fault. The superior man, the righteous man, the persistent man, however you want to phrase that, is: you're busy. You're working, you're driving, you're doing the honest labor through the day, and that appears different for everybody. And in the evening, you're very alert because there might be a danger out there. Is there really a danger, or is this just a perception? And that's where sometimes you have to kind of catch yourself, because you've been working really hard. Well, what if someone sabotages me? Well, what if so-and-so says something to the boss behind my back? What are you doing? You're literally setting up self-sabotage at that point. Stop it. So work through the day, and in the evening, understand you went to the great person, great man, to gain wisdom, to gain knowledge, to find a way around this. Why are you setting yourself up for fear in the end of it? So your fourth place line is: leaping about on the brink of a chasm, he is not at fault. This one's a little bit interesting. You're taking calculated risks this next month, because you're kind of reaching out, like you know what your goals are. You know what you're aiming for. Oddly enough, you probably already have the answers you're seeking. You just are not in a state yet to appreciate those answers. So you're bouncing around looking for help, for solutions to the problem. But you're not at fault for looking around. This is how you grow. Sometimes you'll trip and fall. That's life. But when you get up, you're further ahead and you have knowledge. You've gained a little bit of wisdom if that happens. That's the reason it says you're not at fault as you're bouncing around trying to figure out how to do the thing. Your fifth place line: the dragon wings across the sky. It is advantageous to visit a great man. Even as you continue to develop, you start to understand the first visit, and you start to understand that dragon's not just a mystical, unknown thing floating up in the sky. You're starting to see that it's moving, and it's moving in accordance with what you're aiming for. The dragon comes through as your energy. It's your focus, your desires, your goals. And if you're staying in righteous persistence, good, honest, hard work, it doesn't have to be physical labor, but good, honest, hard work, this is where things are going to go well. That doesn't mean that once you visited the great man one time, you're done. No, check back in, see if there's any new drops of knowledge that he can give you, and then continue to move forward. So our capstone here, the top line: a willful dragon has cause for regret. When you are too focused on, I'm going to do it my way and no one's going to tell me what to do, you're going to have a harder time at this than working with the flow. The flow of life can be a little rough. I will not lie to you. But if you're willing to work with the flow of life and sometimes take those pauses, slow down, catch yourself before you run headlong into a wall. The regret tends to be lessened, but when you get too willful and too, I don't need someone else's advice, I can do this all myself, not always the best option. And the I-Ching says this next month, coming up for June, everything's looking really well. You've got the creative ability to do this. You've got the ability to move forward and actually expand very, very well. But it's time this month to check in, to seek out a mentor, someone who can guide you a little bit. They're not going to do it for you. That is very clear from what the dragon being mystical, but it's within you. The knowledge is there. The great man, and if you research people who have been inspired by people, it was a conversation that triggered something in their mind, and they were like, oh, the answer's unraveled for them. And it's rarely because the great person, the mentor, the whoever, sat down and spelled it out with crayons for them. It was a conversation. They asked a question and they responded calculated. And in most cases, that's what triggers that awakening moment, so that you have access to the same thing the great man does. Are you willing to tap into it and look into it? So let's see what the breakdown week by week is with the Oracle and Tarot. There are approximately 4 weeks in June, so we'll do 4 readings, or 4 weeks, excuse me. And I read a guide or guardian, which is a guide to help you through the week, or a guardian to protect you from anything unknown. And they can be the same image for 2 different people, just depending on what your needs are that week. Then we look at a message from Source, which is a positive reinforcement, some kind of an affirmation or some kind of support from the divine, just a kind of way to like support and encourage you through the week. And then we will look at a lesson or a challenge from the tarot. Again, it depends. If it's something to work on, it's a lesson. If it's something that may be a little bit of a blind side, that's more of the challenge aspect. And if you're interested in any of the books or cards I'm using, they're linked down below. And since I read for elements, not zodiac, I have a couple of videos down below you can check out as to why I read for the elements. And if you want to know what your specific elemental alignment is, there is a natal chart that's down there, and it's one that I use personally. I absolutely love that chart because you get your main circle of where all the planets and everything are in the different houses, but you also get 10 to 20 pages, depends on what information and what's in your chart, of really good details about what the elements are that are in your chart, what each aspect means in different houses, your generation group. There's a lot of good information there, and they're really not that expensive. So just something to think about. And no, I'm not sponsored by them. It's just something that I really like, passing the information on to you. So your first week's guide or guardian is number 21, Merlin the Dragon. Merlin is a great man. He is here to guide and to protect. But the other thing that Merlin brings in with him, and it doesn't matter what your thoughts are on Merlin or the Camelot lore, when Merlin shows up, magic is happening. But the thing with Merlin, and this is the part that most people tend to miss when they look at the myths of Merlin, it was not just about big magic and casting spells and all the drama that goes with it. Merlin worked best when he worked least. It was the phrase that woke you up. It was the comment that redirected you. It was the stern talking to that snapped you out of a bad pattern. There's a lot of times when you look at the broader myths of Merlin and some of the side stories that go along with it, whether he was real or not, I don't know. But when you look at the concept of Merlin in that aspect, there was a lot more there than strictly working magic. And this week is a good... Sorry, I've got a really big case of the yawns. This week is a good week to check in and see who is someone that you look up to, who is a great man or a great woman, however that appears to you, that you know has already been through, or at least went around the area where you're heading, that could give you maybe some notes, some advice, or just have a good conversation about the subject. I've had some personally amazing experiences just sitting down and talking with someone about a topic. They're probably more knowledgeable, so I sat down and I was like, so I have a question about this, and then we started two-way dialogue. I've gotten more out of those than I have from studying in a lot of ways. So, something to think about. Your lesson or your message from Source are the 7 deadly sins, humanity's destructive traits. Not always the best option, not the best message. But what it's saying is your deadly traits, the things that are not healthy as a person. It's letting the ego run rampant. In the I-Ching, it talks about basically the arrogant dragon, the bullheaded, I'm going to do it my way. That's going to get in the way this month across the board. And what Source is bringing in is, as you go through this month, be aware of those times when you have a knee-jerk reaction to something someone says. Why are you having that reaction? In most cases, there's something in that reaction that's going to maybe expose one of your own shadows that needs to be dealt with. Not always, but there's a lot of times when you have a knee-jerk reaction to something, it's because you yourself are feeling that particular vice, so to speak, and that's a good way or a good indication that's the next area you need to work on. Like I said, not always, but that tends to be the case. So what Source is saying is you have the gifts, you have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the awareness to be able to process this. So be aware of those things. Don't let the ego get ahead of the story, so to speak. So your lesson or challenge is the Queen of Chalices. Into the emotions we go. And the Queen of Chalices, she is the ruler of water. She is the mother of water. In this instance, since you have Merlin showing up, you could also view her as Lady of the Lake. She works with the subconscious, but your emotions are an amazing trigger, or at least an amazing flag of what your subconscious is really going through. So this first week, you've got Merlin and sort of the Lady of the Lake, if you will, coming up. And you've got the divine masculine and divine feminine kind of aspects here represented on Earth. And you have the message from Source. Be aware of your ego. Pay attention to that stuff. The Lord and Lady are here to help and guide you. They're also here to help support you. And when you work with understanding what the ego's purpose is, because it does have a purpose, you're not going to kill it. That is such a fallacy that people even say that. To slay the ego is to slay you. Think about that, because your ego is an aspect of who you are. You're not killing that. It's just like you can't kill the shadow. That's where all of your nightmares reside. That's where all the things you regret reside. The trick is coming to a balance with it. And when you have the Lord and the Lady coming forward to help you in this aspect, you have them coming together. That's balance. So this first week is really about understanding how things balance for you, Earth. It's a little intense, I'm sorry. But it's also saying there's a lot of magic and there's a lot of blessing here, as long as you're willing and open to receive it. So your second week's guide or guardian is number 10, Freedom. Yay, less stress the second week. The Freedom Dragons are coming in to show you how relaxing it is to tap in and go with the flow, to let go of all of that drama and all of that chaos and that heaviness. Just let it go. The first week, a little intense. Getting into some balance, working through some things, understanding where you are in life, and knowing that there's parts that might need some work. The second week, when you understand all that, it's like someone takes a weight off your shoulders. Is it gone? Is it done away with? Probably not. But now you're in a better place to understand it, and the Freedom Dragons are here to remind you, don't have to be boring, it doesn't have to be doldrum, it doesn't have to be heavy. Have fun. The second week of June is about tapping into the enjoyment and happiness that goes along with life. And that's what the Freedom Dragons, we'll hold them up again for you. That's what the Freedom Dragons are coming in to tell you is life is a joy and have fun. There's always lessons to learn, but don't forget to have fun. Your message from Source is dolphins. Don't worry, be happy. Literally, the second week is all about relaxing after the intensity of the first. it's about daydreaming. Because in daydreams or in nighttime dreams, your creativity kicks off in a unique way. Even if you don't remember your dreams, your subconscious is putting ideas forward, which is when you're connecting into your guides easier, you're connecting into God's source divine energy easier. But when you're relaxed and you're just in a more peaceful state, A, you'll remember your dreams better, but B, your daydreams become kind of networking with your guides times, where you're kind of staring at a cloud and all of a sudden you start having these very gentle thoughts, but they're fixing the problem you're looking at. And you can have some really amazing aha moments when you do that. So the second week, go outside, stare at a cloud. Put your feet on the ground directly, no socks, no shoes, feet to dirt, and stare at the sky and see what kind of thoughts come forward. Because Source is wanting to communicate with you. The first week felt a little heavy, but the second week is really about, it's not supposed to be rough. Sometimes you need that little pop upside the head to be like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm supposed to be enjoying life here and having fun. And that's what the second week is reminding you about. So your lesson or challenge from the tarot is the Knave of Chalices. It's kind of an interesting card because it's a thought-provoking one. When you are willing to look at your emotions from kind of a outside state, what is coming forward for you? Are your emotions being positive? Do you feel enlightened? Do you feel uplifted by your emotional states when you are looking at it from the outside? Or are they kind of dark? Are they kind of morose? Are they a little dark and gray? The Knave of Chalices is bringing the message forward that you are here to enjoy life. Yeah, that first week was a little bit rough. The second week is about finding the joy in life. In those times of happiness, in those times of divine peace, miracles happen. The magic comes through in those moments. So the Knave of Chalices is saying, when you're in those points where you're in a more neutral, positive state, pay attention, because your emotions are going to show you what it is where you need to go next, type of a thing. Those gut instincts, which are not always the most comfortable thing for Earth to go with, but that's where we're headed right now. So your third week's guide or guardian is actually the first one. First card in this particular deck. It is the Balance. It's got the yin yang on top. A lot of really neutral dragon energy here. The Balance dragon is going to come in and help you find your footing. The first week was a little bit rough. The second week was way more carefree. The third week is, now that you understand the extremes, the super intense seeking knowledge, have to understand, clearing out the things that aren't working in that moment, because you're always going to have more, so don't think you're going to get ahead of this. You're only going to take what you can do. The second week was about relaxing, having fun, remembering that you don't have to make this a chore. And you don't. It's supposed to be enjoyable. This third week, the Balance Dragon is coming forward to say, okay, now that you see that there's these two really broad extremes to life, let's find the middle path. Let's find the middle pillar. And if you know Kabbalah, you'll know what I'm talking about, especially the Golden Dawn. But finding the middle pillar, you're walking the balance of the extremes, the positive and the negative, the white and the black, the masculine and the feminine. You're in the middle. You understand why those are necessary. You also understand where you fit within that dynamic. That changes how you come across in life, and that's what the Balance Dragon wants to help you with in this third week, is resetting your footing on the path of your life. What are your goals? Where are you headed? Are you actually walking towards them, or are you on some side quest? Helping you get back to what your heart and mind and soul's real cravings are. And those are unique to you specifically. The message from Source is an epiphany, seeking clarity. When you step into balance, when you realign with who you are, when you walk that middle pillar energy, it shows you epiphanies. As I talked about in the second week, where you put your feet directly onto the soil and you're watching clouds and you get those aha moments. Those aha moments are divine communication, for lack of a better term. And this third week, you're still bringing that forward. You're talking to the great man. You're talking to the great woman, however that manifests for you. Your mentor in this third week is coming through a second time for you. Again, they're not going to hand you the map. They're going to give you the breadcrumbs, because the breadcrumbs are showing you that you actually already know where you're headed. You know the next steps. Might be uncomfortable, but you got this. And they want to be really clear. I don't know why they keep saying that, but they're like, you got this, fam, you got this. So pass that on. So really focus on connecting with your guides, and that whoever that great person is in your life, the one that you're getting your advice from, just have a casual conversation. It doesn't have to be intense, like, I need to understand next step. Don't do that. That's going to blow up in your face 100%. This is about doing it in a way that is easy for both participants to understand and grow. And I'll put you in a little secret. When you have those kind of conversations, you're going to get a lot out of it, but don't think for a single moment that in some way, shape, or form, you're not helping out the person that you're looking up to as well. So, your lesson or challenge is the Two of Swords. Don't get too caught up in frivolity. The Two of Swords, there's a lot of honesty, but it's not always the most straightforward. The righteous persistence, you're doing it for a righteous reason, meaning you're doing honest, hard work this month. You're not going to try to hide. You're not going to try to cut corners. The Two of Swords is like, oh, a little white lie is not going to hurt. Trust us. We know this little shortcut over here, and it might be a little deceptive. And that's the part where you have to kind of pay attention. That's where tapping into those epiphanies and really working with the energy of balance and freedom, so that you know when that kind of temptation pops up. Third week's where that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for you. So, let's take a peek at our fourth week for the month of June. We have the Delphin, number 30. The term is not one I'm familiar with, but the energy that comes across right off the bat is, this is a conquering energy. This is you stepping into your authority. This is you mastering your domain. There is a coworker that I'm feeling coming up, a co-energy that's coming up, and it could be the fact that you have earth dominant, water secondary, but water energy is going to be your cohort in this last week, and that's the energy that's coming forward to be supportive of you. But this fourth week of June, pay attention to how you're appearing in the world. You've done a lot of intense work this month, at least on a soul level, and it's going to start to manifest into the physical, where you are stepping into the position where you might be the great person now for someone else's journey. You have conquered things, even if it's only one or two this month. That is huge. Some people go months just trying to conquer one thing or trying to accomplish one thing. I mean, it took me 6 months to start my own business, and that's where we're at. Like, there's nothing happens super fast. Sometimes it does, but for the most part, it's okay if it takes longer. It's okay if everything doesn't happen yesterday. When you step into your power, working with this Delphin energy, I mean, take a look. He is a very powerful, powerful dragon. Conquered his domain, sitting on basically in a throne is how it feels. You don't have to worry about what other people think. By the end of this month, you're going to know yourself a little bit better, and that knowledge is worth its weight in gold. So, your message from Source is Angels of Miracles. Open your heart and expect the miracle. Source is telling you, you know where you're headed. You know the next steps. You know this intuitively and deep down inside. God, Source Divine, Lord and Lady, however it manifests for you, they are stepping forward to remind you, and your angels are specifically encamping around you as well, that you have this. Put your ego aside. Tell it, go play some blocks. You have accomplished a lot this month, and the rewards are worth it. Even if other people are like, that's all you did, Doesn't matter. If they say that, challenge them. What have you done? Because I can guarantee you that their accomplishments are going to pale just because their ego is coming forward. You've worked with yours. You know it's when you need it, when you don't. And it's a constant struggle. You're always going to be learning more about it. From experience, you're always going to be learning more about it. And it's not going to always be nice. There's days you're going to mess up. There's days you're going to kind of have a failing. But as long as you're paying attention and learning from those, that's the important part. So wow, that was a weird image that just came through my head. Your lesson or challenge from the tarot is the Nine of Swords. The first thing that, as soon as I flipped this card over, was kind of the Whore of Babylon. Like, this is not, your ego is going to be getting in the way this month. It's going to try this last week. It is struggling for dominion. There's a reason I have my finger where it is. I love this deck. They just show too much. But you notice in the back, she's performed some ritual and she's kind of in the throes of, oh, I think it worked. My ego and my emotions are all over the place, and that's not how it always works. Sometimes when you have that reaction, when you step back, you're like, wait, that's not what that was supposed to do. Look at the outcomes of what your goals are. If they make you feel all disconnected, then it's obviously not the right direction because it's disconnected you. The Nine of Swords, you're almost to a completion point. It's cutting away illusions, but it's making sure you're cutting away the right things. It's not just cutting away illusions. Sometimes you can get a little aggressive and cut away things you need. And that's kind of where this image is coming from, is like, don't cut away the stuff just because, well, it's not working right at this moment. Evaluate things, understand where they're coming from, and then clear them out. That's the important part of cutting cords and cutting this energy away. That's why you work with the archangels. They can help clear the stuff that you're ready to release, and it's not just you trying to like sever everything, because not always the best decision. Anyway, Earth for this next month of June, it has a really good outcome. There's going to be some hard work. There's going to be some times where you have to be brutally honest with yourself, but overall, you have a really amazing month coming up, and there's a lot you can learn. There's a lot of fun you can have. And the Lord and Lady, your guides, God, Source Divine, are going to be right there with you, going through it with you, understanding the emotions, and helping you see how things are a little bit different by the end of the month. So, with that being said, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video if you enjoyed this, and comment your thoughts, ideas, even criticism, if as long as it's constructive, and polite. That's the one thing that I ever ask for, is just as long as we can be polite, that's cool. With that, I'll let you guys go. Have a great rest of your month, and I will see you in the next video.